of next month. Zimbabwe heads to the polls in August against a backdrop of one of the world's highest rates of inflation and accusations of an intensified crackdown on the opposition. Xavier Kasukuwere, one of the presidential candidates in the upcoming Zimbabwe elections, now joins us live on Africa Speaks. It's great to have you here, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and it's barely a month before the general election. What brings you to Kenya?
Well, I've been in Kenya. Obviously, Nairobi is a great part of Africa.
Yeah.
In this region, I've been meeting some stakeholders and colleagues, just appraising them of the electoral process in Zimbabwe and also of my presidential campaign.
Yeah, and I hope you're enjoying the food, the hospitality.
Nairobi, always.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. You know, the climate is good. The Kenyaji chicken, I enjoy it so much, with munyo.
Monyo, that's salt.
Salt, yes.
Yeah, you know, monyo is a word from my tribe, which is Kamba. So we call salt monyo.
In my country, we also call it munyo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the language, and that's why it's important to be in Kenya. It appears every word, whether it's in Kamba, it's Kikuyu, has traces back in my country.
Yeah.
Nyama ya mbuzi, nyama ya huku, all these languages.
Yeah, you also call it nyama ya huku?
Nyama ya huku, yeah.
That's nyama ya kuku.
Yeah, nyama ya kuku, yeah.
Chicken.
Yes.
All right, so welcome to this amazing country. And you know, it's barely, again, a month to the elections, and most of the your competitors and other politicians and other leaders back home could imagine that you're here for political reasons, yeah?
Well, that's their imagination. Obviously, we're in politics.
Yeah.
That's the marketplace of politics. We are also here because Pan-Africanism requires that we explain our views, policies, and programs, not only to the people of Zimbabwe, but to the greater audience of Africa.
All right. Once again, we welcome you to our studios.
Thank you very much.
So let's get straight to our conversation. We are headed to the elections. Just before this conversation, we saw what, you know, political pundits, they are saying that, the pundits are saying that it's a witch hunt on opposition. We've seen a lot of arrests right there. You, again, in your statement said that we are headed to the elections, and again, the incumbent, who is one of the candidates for this year's election, is using the powers that he has the wrong way. Do you still hold to that?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I think he has weaponized state institutions to protect himself, and that's unacceptable. He must also draw a limit. He must have a limit to what he should do. He must respect the Constitution. He must respect the laws of our country. He must also respect the rights of other political players. You've just been saying the incarceration of Job Scala, which is unprecedented. He has not been given bail. He has not been given a chance to be tried fairly. And you have a person jailed without charge for almost a year, over 365 days. It's wrong. And these are some of the issues that have made us stand up and say, no, we must take a stand and challenge Emmerson Mnangagwa.
Yeah.
Because our country can't continue on this trajectory. We cannot allow him to take the whole country for a ride. It's not a personal property. The country is not a private property. It belongs to all Zimbabweans.
Yeah.
So when we come to discuss or talk about national issues, we all have a role to play. So we have taken this decision because we believe the elections are the moment where people must make a decision. 23 August, the people of Zimbabwe shall decide whether they're going to continue for the next 5 years with this kind of behavior or not. We need to reposition our country, recalibrate it on harmony, cohesion, reconciliation, and focus on the economy. There is a lot that we can do around fighting the poverty levels in our society, fighting to bring about our economies, integration, with the discussion must be new. We need a new discussion. We need a new deal for our people. We can't continue this way of doing things.
And you talk about new discussions. You're not new to the Zimbabwe politics. You're one of the longest serving officials in the government, especially in the former administration for the late Robert Mugabe. So why, if I ask, why President Xavier What new really are you bringing?
Well, President Xavier Kasukwere
Yeah.
is an experienced political player who has understood the mistakes we've done in the past, who has also appreciated the strength that we had in the past, but who believes those experiences and acknowledging the things that went wrong in our country realizes that we can actually have a better country. I want to implement an agenda that allows Zimbabwe to move forward. I want to implement an agenda that is economic in nature, that brings about all citizens, that talks about national cohesion, reconciliation of our people, that looks at reviving especially the economy, also reviving the leadership. In fact, quite a number of the leaders who are still in place, I also found them there. They were in there when I was still in primary school. So whilst people say I've been there for long, I'm actually not that long, but I still accept that as part of the collective, we made decisions, and those decisions could have been the correct decisions, and obviously it's a judgment issue. But we want to build on the foresight of our forebearers, the things that they did for us, which were correct, the education, the liberation of our country, the empowerment programs, the land questions. These provide a background upon which we can do much more to fight poverty, disease, and rebuild Zimbabwe.
Yeah, and from your statements, you have no problem with the ZANU-PF as a party. So why are you running as an independent candidate?
Well, I'm running as an independent candidate because I think I have a capacity much better to provide better direction and a vision for the country. I want to move away from this toxic politics, where the parties have now become captured in a sense, and are now being used by individuals to achieve their own individual desires. I have no problems with all the political parties. They can sit and fight.
Are you still a member of ZANU-PF?
I was expelled from ZANU. But for all intents and purposes, my ideas and beliefs were very much ZANU-PF. But I'm no longer a member of ZANU-PF. I now embrace a view that Zimbabwe is far bigger than the beliefs or views of individuals. We need to liberate Zimbabwe from the clutches of political dinosaurs who are in these political institutions. And that's why I take ZANU-PF as a plan that was hijacked in November. And we actually must also rescue the passengers who are in that plane. That's my view. So from November 2017, ZANU-PF became a different animal altogether, because the leader was not elected. He has never subjected himself to a free and fair political process. He has tried by all means to stifle debate within the party. So we put that behind us. We now need to look at the country. What is that we can do? In my view, we need to be able to reconcile with everybody, build a government that draws on the strengths of our people from all the political parties, as well as what the Constitution allows the president to have, about 6 seats, 7 seats. And that's what we will use to build a new government.
And what do you mean by saying that he has never been elected? Because he was part of the other election running against the opposition leader then, Chamisa, and he emerged winner. And right now we are seeing again the opposition leader is part of the candidates that have been cleared to run for presidency in Zimbabwe.
Well, I have my doubts on how he made it in 2018. I mean, he scraped through. 0.4. I don't know where that 0.4 comes from, but
0.4, 0.8, 50?
No, well, actually, up to this day, we don't actually know what the number is, whether it's 50.4 or 50.8. Some say 50.8, some 50.4, but the magical word will be 50 plus 1.
Yes.
Okay, so once he gets that 1, that was okay. But I don't want to go into that, because I have my doubts whether actually he did indeed win.
All right. So now he's again wants to retain his seat as the president. You had your doubts then whether he won, because he was sitting on the throne, quote unquote. So do you again believe that the elections are going to be free and fair?
Well, we have to have elections that the world can judge as free and fair. I say this with the interest of the whole country seriously considered. That it's very important to hold these elections and for Zimbabwe to be judged by the world as having been able to conduct itself. We are going to use these elections as well to cure the coup of 2017. Let this process be as transparent as is possible, even though we have some hiccups, with some challenges around the voters' roll, how it is being handled, around some of the intimidation that the current leadership is trying to place on people, abuse of state resources, buying helicopters ostensibly for the health institutions, but then using them for campaigns. He has the advantage of the incumbents, but I still believe we as leaders have a role and responsibility to ensure that the outcomes are not disputed. We want to be able to collectively say to the world, we held these elections, this colleague won the elections. We congratulate them so that we can send a better message to the world. We don't want disputed elections. So my appeal is to my colleagues, the current president and others. Let's even the playing field. Let's level it up. And we cannot continue to have Zimbabwe being discussed. And we can't continue to also have elections that are disputed. If there are disputes, they should be referred to the courts. But there should be disputes that are not created by the system or the administration deliberately. Let there be mistakes, but overall, we should allow these elections to create a new opportunity for Zimbabwe. The people are sick and tired of the noises we make as Zimbabweans. We want to have a new vision, a new process, a new future, not based on how I've been cheated. You go to court, you are maybe dismissed unfairly, and so forth. That's what we want to put behind us.
And before we get to the issues affecting Zimbabweans, please clear the air on this matter. Your critics say that you're working with the opposition probably to dent Mnangagwa's votes. Is that true?
I don't know why the others are not working together to dent my votes. Why should I be the one working to dent someone's votes? I am coming to the election because every 5 years, the law allows for a citizen of Zimbabwe who qualifies to stand for presidency. And once you lift your hand up and say, I'm available, I'm not doing that for somebody else. I'm doing that because I think I can offer a different view, a vision for Zimbabwe. So my chances are based on how I'll conduct myself and present myself to the people of Zimbabwe. It's not tied to the fortunes of either of my colleagues who are also participating in the elections.
All right. And let's now have a look at some of the issues, especially issue number one, the cost of living crisis that continues to be at the core of the voters in Zimbabwe. And when you look at what has been happening, the prices have rose up to 85, 86%, and that's one of the highest annual inflation rates in the world. How do you plan to turn this around?
We have the crisis in our economy.
Yeah.
We have allowed things to get out of control. We have inflation, which has gone through the roof. We have unemployment, which is so huge. We have corruption in our country. We have macroeconomic instability. We have a civil service that is underpaid, but also which the wage bill is way beyond our capacity as a country. So we have a plethora of challenges that are associated with the economy that will require a lot of discipline. The first thing that we must instill in our system is discipline. We must be able to live within our means. Our expenditure must equate to our incomes. What are we receiving? Are we not exposing our people? Some of the things that have been done in terms of economic management leaves a lot of concern to the majority of our people. Secondly, we've had cases of gross corruption, just uninvestigated, swept under the carpet. The gold scandal just a few months ago, which was exposed by Al Jazeera. Again, these are affecting our economy. Confidence. Our own people must have confidence in the economy for them to invest, for them to save their money in the economy. You have a situation where their people's savings are eroded, or when they make their investments with the banks, the costs of the money being kept in the bank becomes greater than the interest they are supposed to be earning in the bank. These are all factors that have militated against a successful economic recovery for our country. So we need to restore confidence in the market. We need to get our macroeconomic fundamentals correct. We need to start living within our means. We need to encourage investors to come into Zimbabwe. Our laws and regulations must be in such a manner that people don't doubt what we're trying to do, and we can't change them every other week. There must be predictability in terms of our investment climate. So this is what we're going to be doing. Our currency reforms, we need currency reforms. We also need to ensure that even Zimbabwean people have confidence in investing in their own country. These are some of the solutions to the challenges that we're facing in the economy.
Yeah, and before we look at what you will do, let's go back to what you have done, because you served as a member of parliament, Minister of Youth Development and Employment Creation. What would you say you did while you served in the government on those positions that you look back and say, I pride myself in this, and once elected as president, then I want to take that forward?
We looked at the empowerment policies, and these are critical, that the people of Zimbabwe, first and foremost, must become leaders of their own economic development. We urged and set in place processes that saw quite a number of Zimbabweans becoming business leaders, business persons, and I'm proud that quite a number of those were in the SMEs have graduated now to become very serious business leaders in our country. In other words, a country without its own major players risks some of the shocks. If you have foreigners running your economy, the day they think they are not happy with you, they'll drop you. But we are excited and happy that the Zimbabweans have answered our call, and they are almost in each and every sector of our economy. Secondly, the mines and mineral policies of Zimbabwe, we did set up structures to ensure that the greater benefits accrue to our people. We set up community trusts. We did indigenize quite a number of the mines, but that work has been stopped. We really need to sit down and look at how the benefits accruing from our mining sector also flows to the communities. You can't have a situation where there is an island of poverty, the seas of poverty and islands of prosperity from the mining sector. Coming to the youth, we set up the youth fund, and my promise is that come August, after winning these elections, we're going to expand, support what we call here the hustler funds. We set up the youth funds in Zimbabwe, and we were almost sitting at about $60 million. But today there is nothing, meaning that our young people are opting out. They're leaving the country. They need just some injection into their small businesses, because without that injection, you can't create taxpayers going forward. So we want to do what we did then, set up youth facilities, youth funds, women, and get every hustler, if I might use this word, every hustler on board. We want also
I
to
hope you understand the word hustler in Zimbabwe.
No, they do. Hustlers is universal. Okay. Those who are pushing around, trying to get things to happen. And indeed, Zimbabweans do understand that they have a responsibility, but the state must facilitate. In other words, we need to encourage our pension funds, our banks, to support the emerging markets, the emerging business persons who are starting. We also worked around the youth issue I've talked about, giving skills to the youth. In our view, and in my view, we need to build more vocational training centers, what you call technical. And these must be in each and every district for us to be able to absorb youngsters who might not be intellectual. So in the country, because they are actually carrying 60% of the ones who bring the hood, they are the ones who bring the water. What are we going to do in terms of women empowerment for them to have their targets are set. If we're talking about bringing up our ladies and our women in our society, it must also follow that we support them in terms of training, we support them in terms of funding, we support them in terms of markets. We need what the world is doing to be done in Zimbabwe. And is able to succeed. Why can't our African people, let alone Zimbabwe? And these are some of the things that we did when I was Minister of Youth.
Yeah.
Environment, a lot of work was done around bring Zimbabwe into line with the rest of the world. The Ramsar Conventions, we did environmental policies programs, we looked after animals, we played a big role in the climate industry. I chaired the African Ministers' Conference on metrology, and we did signpost exactly where Africa must go to, especially in terms of the challenges associated with climate change.
Right. And as you wind up, maybe I could welcome your take on Kenya's Finance Bill 2023, because it's already been challenged in Parliament. We've also seen different reactions from Kenyans, right, especially on the doubling of VAT on petroleum products and other taxes that have been introduced by the Kenya Kwanza administration. What's your take on that?
Well, I take it that this